Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 345. And this episode, as always, of What's Right with Nick Wright is presented by our friends at Boost Mobile. This is our last show until after the 4th of July. I will leave from here to go do the TV show and then head out west for family reunion and then head further west for a vacation with my wife and kids. So we did a long draft show last night. We will do a full draft recap show here today, hit on some other things, potentially get to that Rodgers story that broke after our show on Tuesday, and then I'm gone after First Things First today. So, but this is kind of the right time of year to be gone. Maybe miss the very beginning of NBA free agency, maybe miss a potential Lakers trade, but aside from that, we should be good. Damonza, good to see you. How are all 6 eggs for the snakes still doing okay?
100%. Still going strong. No mold, none of that stuff. Humidity's great.
Okay, I didn't even know mold was a thing. This is a new anxiety for Damonza. Are the eggs going to get mold on them? And also a minor existential crisis of he is leaving town as well, and he is leaving those snake eggs alone in his apartment. I would imagine there were some Google searches of what happens if like power goes out in an apartment. Can someone get in? I understand.
Big bucket of water in there. Big bucket.
There you go. And luckily, just bring your apartment keys with you. And our friends at Blue Duck, who are in LA, if we need to overnight them to them, if something happens, I'm sure one of our LA-based people will take care of you. I'm very confident in that. Right now, before we get to this is the actual show, but before we get to the NBA draft, straight to voicemail brought to you by our friends at Boost Mobile. These guys want me, so every once in a while the producers, in a very kind way, set me up to fail. They expect me to Ron Burgundy some of this stuff and just read what's written. And they want me to say Wimby stuns in China photo dump. So I guess that happened. The Pelicans and Washington trade CJ McCollum for Jordan Poole. That actually is in the show. And Caitlin Clark slumping maybe, however, ruled out with a groin strain. I shouldn't say strain. Ruled out with a groin injury. I believe it's a left groin, which might have saved Wilds from the reverse take of the year, with Wilds kind of soft launching the Caitlin Clark, maybe she's not good anymore take. He didn't hard launch it, but soft launched it. Reminder to everybody out there, like, rate, subscribe, review. One of the reasons but again, these are things I don't totally understand, but it seems like particularly when we do these live shows, the more people that click the like button, it like populates in more YouTube feeds for other people. That's, I guess, why the like is important, not because it serves my ego, but because it could expand our audience. So I don't really ever ask people to like the podcast, but I guess that's helpful. So please do that if you could. And the other reason to subscribe is because sometimes we do out of nowhere 2-hour live draft shows that if you're not subscribed, you don't know we're doing. All right, Damonza, let's get to the draft itself. Go ahead.
So the draft was last night, and you were obviously live for that. There were some crazy moments in there, and one of the notable ones was the Pelican trade, and here's your reaction to it.
Did New Orleans just... Earmuffs, kids. New Orleans just fucking traded away their next year's first-round pick unprotected to move up from 23 to 13? That might be the most reckless draft day trade I've seen in 5 years. Yeah, so we'll get more into that in a second, but go ahead.
Another one was Brooklyn using all 5 picks and Portland taking Yang 25 picks early. What was your single biggest takeaway from the draft last night?
My single biggest takeaway was what New Orleans did. And listen, we will talk Cooper Flagg, and we will talk Dylan Harper, and we will talk Ace Bailey. But I have had a night to sleep on it, and I am more entrenched that Joe Dumars' first draft since taking the Pelicans, Joe Dumars was not great in Detroit. He was a great player, but was not a great executive. And he was there for a long time. And then he went to the league office for a long time. And this is where, man, TV show today is going to be a little tricky because obviously we all on the show say whatever we, think. However, at times I feel, not because of Brew, but I personally feel a little awkward because Brew has real relationships with a lot of people, long term. And sometimes I realize like halfway through a take, I'm like, am I talking about one of Brew's friends? And so I don't know whether or not Brew has a real relationship with Joe Dumars, but I would imagine he does. And so that could be, a weird spot on First Things First today. But listen, as I always say, my only obligation is to the truth. And the truth is, it's one of the craziest damn things I've ever seen the team do. And it's New Orleans, if you weren't watching. New Orleans really liked Derek Queen. If you were watching our live draft show, I said I wouldn't hate it if New Orleans took Queen at 7 when they had the opportunity. That would have been a slight overdraft. Instead, they go Jeremiah Fears. And so there's so much here that I find fascinating. One is Jeremiah Fears, of high offensive upside, very questionable defender, didn't really show efficiency in college. His direct comp is kind of Jordan Poole, who New Orleans just traded for a day before the draft. So you traded for Jordan Poole, you then draft Jeremiah Fears. The other guy that they were clearly very interested in is Derek Queen, a guy I like a lot, but a guy that I said during the draft show, not in athleticism, but in strengths and weaknesses as a player, reminds you a lot of Zion, where can kind of play a little point forward, has real questions defensively. Zion wasn't supposed to, but ended up having those. Is not going to be a great shooter, and is not going to be a real rim protector because he's not 7 feet tall, or even really Zion's not even approaching 7 feet tall. And there are some work ethic concerns. There are some why aren't you in better shape concerns, but the talent is really right there. New Orleans has that guy in Zion. They take Derek Queen, which again, I don't hate in a vacuum. And some might say, well, that then allows you potentially more easily to trade Zion if you want to replace him with Derek Queen. All that would make sense if they had simply taken Derek Queen at 7, or if they had simply made any other type of trade other than trading away what is potentially, all things considered, the most valuable pick going into next year's draft. And the reason I say that is not because I think New Orleans is the team most likely to have the worst record in basketball. The reason I say that is that's not what they traded. So they went from 23 to 13. So to the cost to move up those 10 spots, they traded away unprotected 2026 draft pick that will be either New Orleans or Milwaukee, the better of the two. So New Orleans has, I don't know, a 15% chance to be the worst team in the league next year. And Milwaukee has, here's the question. What is the chance Giannis gets hurt? / what is the chance, or added to the chance, that Milwaukee trades Giannis? Because whatever, is that 5%? If that happens, Milwaukee's the worst team in the league. Milwaukee with Dame out potentially the whole year, if Giannis gets dinged or if they just trade him, they become the worst team in the league. And the other teams that are in contention for the worst team in the league, most notably Charlotte and Brooklyn and maybe Washington, those teams are in the East. Utah as well is in there. So to give away that draft pick that might be AJ Damonza or again, it will almost assuredly be a top 10 pick and has a real chance of being a top 5 pick. For not for a superstar, not as a package to get a player like Giannis, but to just move up and get a guy who, if you had not moved up and taken him, was likely going to fall out of the lottery. It's just incomprehensibly bad. And I was thinking yesterday, like, what version of this trade would I have made? If I were New Orleans, would I have offered this unprotected 2026 better of New Orleans or Milwaukee straight up for the 13th pick, not even including the 23rd pick? No, I would not have. Would I have done this trade, Damonza, if it were the opposite, meaning 13 for 23 and the worst of the two New Orleans Milwaukee picks? I wouldn't have done that either, because it's on the board. They're both bad. Like, again, I think Milwaukee should be fine, but they, more than any team in the league, are a one-man show, other than maybe Denver. But even Denver, if Joker were to go down, you have other pieces you like. Would I have traded 23 and next year's unprotected number 1 to move up to 7? Which, again, wouldn't have made sense because New Orleans already had 7, but you understand what I mean. I wouldn't have done that. So I think this will go down. We have to see, where these picks land, and we will see it. But I think this will be like the Hawks trading Luka for Trey. The type of move that we reference on draft night, that we reference for years and years and years.
Maybe the Pelicans front office is in love with that archetype and they're just backup plans. If those the other two don't pan out, we're shipping them out of here. I don't know.
Right. So you trade for Poole, you draft a guy who maybe one day can be Poole and Fears. You have Zion.
And you've already seen what Poole and Zion are kind of like being in the NBA.
Yes, I mean, it's clearly something like that, Damonza, but if we right now, let me check on DraftKings, the odds for team futures. I just see finals. Okay, here we go. Conference winner in the West. New Orleans, the West is so funny. There are 9 teams that are 25-1 or better. So OKC, Houston, Minnesota, Lakers, Nuggets, Warriors, Spurs, Clippers, Mavericks. Those 9 teams, 1 through 9, are 25-1. There are then 6 teams that are 110-1 or worse. The Grizzlies, the Pels, the Kings, the Suns, the Blazers, the Jazz. The Jazz should be the worst team in the West next year. After that, the Kings and Grizzlies want to win. The Suns obviously want to win. And the Blazers just traded for a 36-year-old Drew Holiday. Now, it doesn't mean and New Orleans obviously wants to win. My point is, only one team in the West doesn't want to win in Utah. You're not going to, fall into easy conference victories. I am gobsmacked at this. And maybe it's a nerdy look at the draft to be focused on this trade. I just think it's one of the most reckless moves I've seen a team make in a very, very long time. And it also does show you this is one of the cool things about the draft. The ticking clock factor. Like, if this would have been done during the course of regular business, would cooler heads in New Orleans have prevailed and been like, hey, Joe, what if we offer them this exact trade, but just say the pick has to be top 10 protected? And they say no, and we say, okay, top 5 protected then. Certainly, you could have done top 1 protected. Like, you would have been able to better massage it or get a swap back or something. But because 5 minutes.
The ticker is stressful.
Yeah. Hey, you want to miss out on your player, you got to go. And a triple plus to the new Hawks front office. What an opening few days. Got off some bad salary, added Chris Stapps, came away with an absolute... It is, I don't know, a 10% chance? No, probably higher. 15% chance that you just got a top 3 pick?
Right.
It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. All right, we'll get to the first and the second pick in just a second. But first, hotels in Vegas may be booked solid this weekend, but there's one vacancy left to be filled at UFC 317. A new lightweight champ will be crowned. Grab your own crown at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Topuria takes on Oliveira to fill the vacant men's lightweight title, and Alexander Pantoja defends his flyweight belt against Kai Kara France in the co-main event. Who you taking? First time betting on UFC at DraftKings? Just pick something simple like a fighter to win. Doesn't get more simple than that, and make your pick. It really is that easy. And if you're new to DraftKings, check this out. New customers who bet $5 will get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code WRIGHT. Code WRIGHT, W-R-I-G-H-T. That's code WRIGHT for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, Damonza, let's get to the top pick of the draft.
So as expected, the Mavs took Cooper Flagg with the first pick. So they extended Kyrie and Gafford. Question is, if Kyrie ends up healthy, do you think that Dallas is contenders or Dallas are contenders?
Do you think they are?
Yes, I do.
I knew you did. I could tell just from the look in your face. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was just telling the guys this morning, the balance of defense and offense on that team also paired in with the way, I know it's your guy, but the way that Luka was looking in the playoffs last year, it just kind of seems like Nico might have had a grasp on the situation and what was going on over there. And I like that team. Like, if Cooper Flagg pans out nicely, I hate that it worked out for him. And, they ended up with the number 1 pick. But with that number 1 pick, that's a squad right there.
So let's talk about the Nico piece of this, and then we'll get to the team. Because Nico had a quote. Nico said, "Fortune favors the bold." And on behalf of Mavs fans everywhere, I wanted to break a TV.
Yeah, that's pretty
You do not get to trade Luka, hold a press conference saying, we did this for this year because we think we are better right now to win a championship this year or next year, and then end up bad enough that you're in the lottery and fall ass backwards into the number 1 pick and then be like, all part of the plan. If at that, listen, Honest to God, if at that press conference he had said, listen, we are all about championships. Even though we thought last year's finals appearance was fool's gold, and we traded for Anthony Davis knowing he's injured, and by the way, he's going to take some time to come back this year. This is not about this season. And we may or may not even be back in the playoffs this year. We're okay with this because this is a long-term play. And then you end up with Cooper Flagg. Then you can say, told you, part of the plan. Didn't expect number 1 pick, but we were going to add an impact player. Fine. You don't get to be like, we are doing this to contend right now. You fall into the, and then be in the play-in and be trying to win the play-in, lose, fall into the lottery, get the number 1 pick, and be like, bang, told you. So that's first of all. But they are where they are. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, just to be clear, I don't want to give him any credit for this. Like,
no,
the Luka piece of it, like, I kind of can see he was a little bit onto something. It was a crazy trade. But with it panning out the way it did and them getting that first pick, I think they have quite the squad on them right now.
Okay, so that's the real question, is do they? And my answer to that question is, I think right now they are more than a touch overrated. And here's why. Listen, I heard, and again, this is not picking on him. I think other people thought this, but I heard Stephen A. yesterday say that he thinks they could be Oklahoma City's biggest competitor. I disagree. And the reason I disagree is this. I do not care how good you are, what your profile is. In the modern NBA in particular, rookies that have to be the focal point of a team's offense do not contribute to winning. Flatly. They just don't. Like, I understand Magic was great as a rookie. He was not the focal point of the team's offense. Kareem was. LeBron, as unbelievable as he was, that Cavs team missed the playoffs. Michael Jordan, as a rookie, I think averaged 28 points a game. That Bulls team won 38 games. Okay? Like, asking rookies, hell, take the Mavs with Luka. Luka's first year, Cooper Flagg's not going to be better than Luka, year 1 Luka. When year 2 Luka, he was first team All-NBA, they won 33 games. Now, obviously, those guys didn't have an Anthony Davis on their team, and eventually a Kyrie Irving. But so they should be better than those records. But the point that I am making is, as long as Kyrie is out, and I do not think I think expecting Kyrie to be back before the All-Star break is foolish. I think Kyrie Irving, given his, knee history and injury history and his size and his age, and you just signed him to an extension, rushing him back would be foolish. And until Kyrie comes back, you are going to be asking your primary ball handler and your primary creator to be an 18-year-old. Like, I love Flagg's upside because of his age, but he's 18. He turns 19 in December. And, maybe Clay has a bounce back year. He is not creating. Anthony Davis is awesome. He is not creating. Gafford and PJ Washington and Derek Lively are all useful players. They are not creating. You traded away a guy who could create a bit in Quentin Grimes for reasons I don't totally understand to bring in Caleb Martin. So, your secondary main creator is going to be Max Christie, the other part of the AD trade, until Kyrie gets back.
What about Spencer Dinwiddie? Is he just not good at creating shots?
No, I don't. Dinwiddie, am I wrong? I thought Dinwiddie was a free agent. Maybe So
Oh,
I think Dinwiddie right now is
is he?
maybe
Okay.
they bring him back, but he's not on the roster right now. So
Okay.
and Dinwiddie is. I mean, there's a reason that Dinwiddie's last contract was for the league minimum. You know what I mean? Like he can be a microwave offense, but
Right.
he is
Yeah, I was
not.
about to say if it's for the purpose of making it to where Cooper Flagg isn't your main guy, then if Dinwiddie's the alternative,
Sure,
then,
something, and maybe that's something. And free agency hasn't happened yet, and they obviously will, add some pieces. They will add some
Right.
things. I understand that, but I do not think it is rational to expect the Mavs this next year with Kyrie playing, I don't know, I would say 30 games at best, and I would take the strong under on that. With Anthony Davis and, if you right now as a Mavs fan, if you were like, hey, AD's going to play 65 games on the nose, you would be like, take it. Like, I'll sign up for that immediately. And with Cooper Flagg being the youngest kid in this draft class and, having a lot on his plate, I don't think in 2020, this coming season, the Mavs are contenders. I do think that if Kyrie comes back from that knee injury and looks like he did before the knee injury, and Cooper Flagg is the guy that a lot of people think he can be, that in the season after this one, they can be really good. So if I am power ranking the West going into this coming season, I personally would power rank it Thunder, Rockets, Lakers with an asterisk, the asterisk being I'm assuming they are going to add a major piece in the next 10 days. Nuggets, Minnesota, 4-5. Golden State, 6. And then Dallas alongside the Clippers, 7-8. That's where I think they will be for next year. Now, in 2 years, I think that could be different. And that does not, by the way, take into account much of what the Spurs can potentially be. And so let's get to the Spurs here, Damonza.
Yeah, so everybody figured he was going to go number 2 to the Spurs, but nobody is explain. Oh, Dylan Harper. Sorry, I didn't specify.
Yeah.
But they still have Harper, Castle, and Fox. Do you think they're going to trade something?
Yeah, so here, listen, it's an interesting triumvirate of guards because I like them all,
Right.
but they all not only have kind of, at least at the moment, a weakness, but it's all the same weakness, which is they all like to do most of their damage inside the three-point arc, and none of them are great perimeter shooters. Castle, these guys are young. Fox isn't. Fox is 33% for his career. Castle last year, 28%. Dylan Harper at Rutgers was not great from three himself. And so, and I'm pulling it up right now, or at least they switched it to his pro stats. At Rutgers, he was 33%. So those three guys, you can play a 3-guard lineup at times. You cannot play a 3-guard non-shooting lineup. I also think the Spurs, so Dylan Harper was a no doubt gotta pick him guy at number 2. I also think the Spurs are really going to ease in to the Wemby era. They're going to let Harper Fox and Castle compete, try different things, and one of those guys is going to be a key piece in a major trade. Like, that I am very confident in. Now, I think they would love to pair Harper alongside Wemby for the next 10 years. But if Giannis were to come available and the Bucks want Harper, then you trade the Bucks Harper. Like, if Giannis doesn't come available, but a different tier type of guy does, and who would that be? KD just got traded. There's the top tier guys who are just not coming available. Let me pull up my latest King of the Hill, just as a quick, kind of a shorthand for me of the best players in the league. So Jokic not coming. Well, I mean, we don't think Jokic coming available. Josh Kroenke's like, we don't want to trade him, but shit happens. So who's a good example? Okay, here's a great one. Let's say Devin Booker has a change of heart after another shit year in Phoenix. And it's like, you know what? I can get my cars shipped to Texas. And I want to play in big games. I played in the finals as a kid. Next level, star player, but not Giannis. Then maybe you don't have to trade Harper in that, but you trade Castle and Fox. Like, there's different, you have now, I think, 3 legitimate assets that other teams would want to varying degrees. Like, and now the tricky thing is, on the Fox point, this is, am I right about this? Yeah. This is the last year of his deal. So the other thing that could happen is that Fox walks after this year. I would imagine that's not how this plays. I would imagine that they would try to, potentially move Fox at the deadline if need be so they get something back from him. But they have Castle and Harper on rookie deals. They will see how all of them play next to Wemby. But the Spurs right now are in I think, a very good position, but a unique position, because their 4 most valuable assets or players are all guys who like to shoot, except for Castle, who's not a big shooter, like to shoot threes, and I'm including Wemby in this, and none of them are guys who are that good at shooting threes. Say it again?
I said you got to take Wemby out then. You said not good at shooting.
What do you mean?
Threes. He's not terrible. I like Wemby shooting threes.
Wemby doesn't need to shoot 9 threes a game, bro. Shooting 9 a game.
Right, yeah.
I mean, like Wemby's shot diet, and I don't like that term, but it's become like a new term, shot diet.
I like it.
Needs to reflect a little bit more
of his
that
body.
He's the tallest guy on the court by 6 inches most of the time. And so the Spurs, you take Harper, you figure it out later. But you don't, those 3 guys are not going to be there, forever. I know, oh, by the way, like, rate, subscribe, review. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button, please. If you're watching on YouTube and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And subscribe to us on iTunes and Spotify. We have a live question from someone watching on YouTube.
Yeah, Rule said, what about Devin Vassell?
Vassell. So listen, all good. He's, right now, I think their 5th most valuable piece, if you will. Like, he is, Wemby is their most valuable piece with a bullet. Huge gap. And then Dylan Harper is now their 2nd most valuable piece with a bullet. Huge gap. And then Castle Fox is kind of eye of the beholder. I don't think Castle will ever be as good as De'Aaron Fox. But is the fact that Castle's so much younger and for at least the next 3 years on such a great contract, and Fox is a guy you're probably going to have to max out, or come close to it a year from now, does that make him more valuable to that team than to others, or to different teams? And so I think the Spurs have very interesting choices ahead of them, but I'm very confident that their long-term plan is not Castle, Fox, Harper. I also think it's totally fair, and it's not totally fair. I know I'm right. When they traded for Fox, they didn't think they were going to get the second pick of the draft. When they traded for Fox, Wemby was still healthy. They were fighting to get to the play-in. They didn't think, where our point guard of the next decade is going to be taken care of in this draft in Dylan Harper. It's just how it turned out. All right, let's get to the rest of the West, Damonza.
So the West is as dangerous as ever. Obviously, KD just went to the Rockets. It's going to be the Lakers' first full season with Luka, and teams like Spurs and the Mavs could take the leap. Who are the best players? Who are the real players in the West?
Yeah, so listen, I did this a bit on. I think there is it's clearly Oklahoma City at the top, but I think the next best two teams are the Rockets and the Lakers, and the Luka overcorrection negativity has gone too far, and I did this on the TV show yesterday. I just want to reiterate it. Luka, 5 best players in the league, okay? Joker is 30. He won his title at 28. Giannis is 30. He won his title at 26. Tatum is 27. He won his title at 26. Shea is 26, turns 27 in 2 weeks. He just won the title. Luka, the youngest of all of them, 26, will be 26 during the first couple months of next season. The idea that he is behind schedule or off schedule is incorrect. Right now, Shea, understandably, his star could not be shining brighter. I get that, and he deserves it. However, we also can't compare Luka and Shea career numbers because Luka was good instantly and Shea grew into it. So if we simply just take the last 2 years for Shea, which are far and away the best 2 years of his career, and compare them to the last 2 years for Luka, which includes far and away the worst year of his career this past year, the numbers are identical. Playoffs and regular season, identical, except for Luka beats him in assists considerably and rebounds by a bit, but the scoring and efficiencies are nearly identical. One guy made the finals, Damonza, and lost to a team some people thought was going to turn into a dynasty in Boston. The other guy made the finals and went 7 with a team people thought was the most unlikely finalist in modern NBA history. So to act like, I don't think it's fair to be like, well, you can win with one guy, you can't win with the other. Now, Shea is coming off his best year, Luka's coming off his worst. That's undeniable. But there's too big of a discussion gap amongst the two. So that's one of the reasons that I am a believer in the Lakers. And I'm going to do this in reverse order, 3, 2, 1. Second reason I'm a believer in the Lakers is I do think they are going to make a substantial move in the next week. I think they are going to address some of their roster holes, and I think they have the assets to do it. And the last reason I'm a believer in the Lakers is, let me call it a informed opinion that people that think LeBron is resigned to the idea that he's not like that making the finals and competing for championships, that phase of his career is over, are unabashedly, unequivocally wrong. Now, maybe if your opinion is whatever he thinks is going on, doesn't matter, that phase is over. That's an opinion and you're allowed to have. But if you think LeBron is like, okay, at this point, it's just about playing with my son, at some point having a farewell tour, I love the game, you can dead that right now. And I think these finals and watching Oklahoma City struggle with Indiana and watching what these finals looked like only
surge
emboldened LeBron to feel like I can get back there. And so if you have chip on his shoulder Luka wants one last dance at some point deep in the postseason LeBron and some slight roster tweaking, that to me makes the Lakers a contender.
You think Austin Reeves is there next year?
Probably not.
Right.
Maybe at the beginning, probably not through the year. I just think Austin Reeves, he's your most valuable tradable asset. And because of Luka, he's a little redundant. Exactly. When you have Anthony Davis there, Austin Reeves is critical. Because without Austin Reeves, your only creator's the oldest guy in the league in LeBron. But with Luka there, he becomes, and I really like Austin. You know what I mean? I was the first person to tell you Austin Reeves is better than Bradley Beal. Everybody called me crazy. But I just think sometimes he is right now a luxury and the Lakers have some necessities. So I would put, if I were stacking it, I should have started, I think the Nuggets, I should have included them. I think they are a real player based off the strength of Jokic alone. And I think they will, manicure around the edges. And maybe they were over Michael Malone. And maybe what we saw them do in the playoffs under Adelman is something sustainable. And then we see Michael Porter Jr. come back healthy and Aaron Gordon come back healthy. So I'd have them 4, Lakers 3. The Rockets, to me, they can win the championship. And I say this with no disrespect to Oklahoma City at all. But, man, a Lakers-Rockets Western Conference Finals, which I think, check me on this, producers, I think we got that once in league history, and it was 1986, Akeem's second year, when everyone thought we were going to get Lakers-Celtics in the finals again. I know the Rockets beat the Lakers in the playoffs in 1986. I think it was the conference finals. And the
1981,
the Rockets
the Houston
beat
Rockets.
The Lakers. Oh, okay. Hold on.
The Lakers won the series, though.
Hold on a second. That's wrong. I'm just telling you right now.
You asked the producers to fact check.
I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now. That reads to me. I'm about to be. This is a good lesson for everybody. Pause the show, but stay on the air. What they just put in the doc reads like it was some AI bot wrote it. 1,000% it's what it reads like. And no. I'm here telling you that AI bot doesn't know what the hell it's talking about.
The producers asked Grok.
I'm telling you right now, you cannot trust the AI chatbots when it comes to sports history. So I'm gonna do my own thing here. Am I gonna get cooked
here? You might get. Oh wait, no. It says 1981 was Kansas City versus Houston.
Okay, hold on. Everybody stop. Just everybody stop for a second, okay? In 1986, the NBA Finals, without a shadow of a doubt, guys, were the 86 Celtics, maybe the greatest team ever, against the Hakeem Olajuwon, Ralph Sampson Rockets. That is not up for debate. So, my question was the conference finals Lakers-Rockets? I'll look that up. The Rockets beat the Lakers in the conference finals 4-1. Guys, audience, AI chatbots don't fucking know sports. I'm telling you right now. Ask, like, when you're done with the show, ask an AI chatbot, like, very basic things. Like, tell me the top 10 running backs in the NFL right now. And they're going to spit at you Adrian Peterson. Like, so it's just, maybe they're good for some term papers, but they're not good with sports. So the Rockets have played the Lakers in the conference finals. I believe that's the only time. I believe it's 1986. I know I'm looking at it now. I know they played in 1986. But I think that's the only time. Sorry for the sidebar. Point I was trying to make is, with no disrespect to Oklahoma City, a Durant-LeBron conference finals, which we've never gotten, by the way. We got it, and a Durant-LeBron playoff series that felt like a fair fight, which we've only gotten once ever, in the 2012 NBA Finals, which I know, listen, Bron won in 5, but that was a great series until Game 5. Like, those first 4 games all were in the balance in the fourth quarter. And you can say that wasn't a fair fight because the Heat were veterans and the Thunder were young. A fun fact that no one believes, but it is true. The Heat over the Mavs when they lost in 2011, the Heat were the same size favorite over the Mavs in 2011, minus 175, as the Thunder were over the Heat when the Heat won their first title with LeBron and Wade in 2012. The Thunder were minus 175 favorites going into those finals because the Heat, remember, they had lost the year before and they had damn near lost to Boston, and the Thunder had just like exploded onto the scene and become this seemingly unstoppable force of nature. Again, this is off top of my head, but that Thunder team in the conference finals played the Spurs, who the Spurs had won, Damonza, the final 10 games of the regular season, and then were 10-0 in the playoffs. Up 2-0 in the conference finals on a 20-game winning streak, and then the Thunder won 4 straight and made the finals. Like, that Thunder team, it was like, holy shit. Yeah. And so it was really a remarkable thing. But okay, sorry, we're way off topic. The point I'm trying to make is, I think the Rockets have all the pieces you need if Durant stays healthy.
Yeah.
I like Şengün as the fulcrum of the offense. I like that Durant adds scoring. I think they're going to get more from Shepherd. I think Udoka is excellent. I like all of it. And then there's Oklahoma City that has everyone coming back, and everyone but Caruso is super young and should only get better. But there's a lot of plates to balance there. 105 game season. Are you satisfied after a championship? You know, does the Oklahoma City got lucky, I'll put in quotes, that the injury bug hit them early instead of late. like, it's not right to say Oklahoma City, had great injury luck this year. They, key players missed real time, but they suffered it early in the year instead of going into the postseason. So
you think you'll see some type of load management
the West
for KD with the Rockets? The Rockets already being a nice team, them trying to mitigate his injuries.
Yeah. Yes and no. I think you've got to be careful with a guy who's 37. I don't think that they're going to put him on like a 60-game plan. And I also think for a lot of these legends, they want to be eligible for the awards. And that 65-game marker is like they want KD, I'm sure I bet KD is pissed that he was not eligible for All NBA this year. It's like, I played 62 games. I was All NBA caliber. And so, yeah, you know what I mean? So that's what I think they'll do. All right, real quick, let me remind you guys that this is a message that applies to 99% of you listening right now, because that's how many of you can be covered by fast and reliable service on the Boost mobile network with 99% nationwide coverage. And if you don't think you deserve a deal, well, listen up. You've got another thing coming right now. When you switch to Boost Mobile, you can get iPhone 15 with Dynamic Island and a 48-megapixel main camera for $99.99. That's $99.99 for iPhone 15 on a 5G nationwide network. This may only apply to 99% of you, but I'm 100% positive Boost Mobile just gave all of us a really good freaking deal. In-store offer, $35 device setup fee may apply, requires credit qualification, ID verification, and activation on $60 plan. Taxes extra, 5G speeds not available in all areas. All right, Damonza, let's quickly get through some of this other stuff before I got to go.
So we talked about the Halliburton Achilles injury on Tuesday. Dame and Tatum had the same injury in the playoffs, and a handful of other guys like DeJounte Murray, who tore his during the regular season. So you're obviously not a doctor, but what do you think of the uptick of the Achilles injuries in the NBA?
So this used to be an old guy injury. It doesn't seem to be that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, people suffered Achilles tears that were old pro athletes, or people in your situation, pal, where it's like guys who just off. Didn't do, time off, didn't do didn't stretch or you do everything, but it wasn't young prime. It wasn't people your age, like when you suffered yours, who also played basketball every day.
We're in the heat.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And had professional trainers and all of that. And so I have heard a bunch of different theories. This is not my theory, and I would credit the person whose it is, but I heard it secondhand, and I don't know if this person wanted their name associated with it, but I think it's a fascinating theory. And that theory is the shoes are too good. The theory being that in the past, you slid a bit when you planted. Your shoes gave a little.
The tightness.
And now the grip on the bottom and the tightness in how they work, that the shoes don't give at all. And so the pressure it puts on your joints and everything else, I think that's interesting. I heard Doc Rivers talk about how guys used to just play all the year round on blacktop and everything, and because of that, their knees went, but their Achilles and everything was fine. Obviously, a huge part of it is, while the season's always been 82 games, the amount of movement you have to do, particularly on defense, and with how spread out the game is, there's just so much more start-stop that puts pressure on it. I know some people have questioned if it's about guys specializing in things. I saw a pretty interesting
The negative step.
Twitter video. Say it again.
The negative step, or is
Yes.
that a different theory? Yeah.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. We must have seen the same thing.
Yeah.
That like this like what they called a negative step, like this backward step to get going.
The boost
is
right.
not something that used to be done, and it's how a bunch of these are happening. So I don't know. I do know that I truly believe this needs to be at the forefront of Adam Silver's agenda for the next 18 months. Because you cannot have the Achilles in the NBA become Tommy John in baseball, where it's just, oh yeah, this half dozen guys are out 12 to 18 months with an Achilles. And particularly because baseball, you have, the numbers are just so, you have more players, you have more pitchers, the numbers are different. But go ahead.
I don't know if we ever talked about it on Tuesday, but do you think like now if a player feels like calf tightness, it's like an instant 3 months out? Like it's just like
not 3 months,
not even taking
but
a
I
chance.
I think it's 3 to 4. What I was told by a long tenured NBA player was a calf strain, you have to simply take a month off.
Yeah, I remember.
And even if you feel like you can play, the only way it heals is if you simply rest it for a month. And that seems dramatic. Now, the other piece of this that I would say is figuring out what leads to calf strains and how to prevent those. And some of that is preventative.
Stretching.
Like, yeah, like I know that, and again, I don't know. What I do know is that most soft tissue injuries, not all, most are preventable. Like hamstrings, groins, quads, usually those it is guys who regularly have them are not doing all the things they need to do. I don't know how calves work. I really don't.
Mandatory yoga in the NBA now. Mandatory yoga.
Maybe. I don't know.
For the guards.
It's stunning that this is where we're at. And I thought Jay Caspian Kang had a really interesting tweet where he was like, the majority of people watching the finals have no idea if they're watching zone or man-to-man defense, but they all know what an Achilles tear looks like. And I'm like, damn, that's right. Like, we can all diagnose from TV, oh, wow, look, there was that thing where you saw it snap up, go back. We're like, yep, we know what that is. And that is again, this is not apples to apples, obviously. But the same way we know watching football, when a guy does the fencing posture, we're like, oh, that's a concussion. You know what I mean? Like, we know it. And so John in the chat says, more players now than ever wear low-top shoes. Yeah, I don't know. I do know that this should be a top priority for the league. Because I'll take the NFL, which seemingly is a ratings, not seemingly, is a ratings behemoth, unstoppable force. The only year the NFL had real ratings, issues is the wrong word, but dips, was the year all those quarterbacks got hurt. There is a star, and there's no league where the star power matters more than the NBA. And the Achilles not a quick one either. Like, what has changed is we have seen guys come back and be as good as they were. What has not changed is it's 12 to 18 months. You look at me skeptical about as good as they were.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it's actually been pretty rare. with the guys. KD's like the only person I think that's torn his Achilles recently that like came back and was the same or a little bit better than when he tore his Achilles.
So no, that's fair. But again, in the past, it was old guys, so you didn't expect them to be better. The only other like star that and now you're back in 6 months.
Right.
Like that's not been the case. All right, let's go to Joker real quick before we go.
So Nuggets president Josh Kroenke had some interesting things to say. So yeah, he says, I think that there are rules around it that we need to be very careful of with our injury history. The wrong person gets injured and very quickly you're into a scenario that I never want to contemplate, and that's trading number 15. So he tried to clarify that they do plan on extending him, but what would be the purpose in saying something like this?
I think it's a big mistake. I think he made a big mistake. And when I say a big mistake, I don't mean like you can't recover from it, but I think it is a significant mistake that he needs to clean up with Joker.
Joker, right?
Because what he's talking about, if I'm Joker and I get off my horse and somebody shows me this clip, it's totally reasonable for him to be like, hold on a second. What you're saying there is, are you telling me there is a scenario where I want to be a Nugget and you guys decide you're trading me? Because I didn't think that's the deal we had. I thought the deal we had was, as long as I want to be here, I will be here. And so like and I know Kroenke's like, it's only a catastrophe, whatever. Like, if I'm Joker, I'm like, that's not how this works, just so you know. The way this works is the only way you guys trade me is if I come to you and say trade me. And by the way, I expect if I do that for you guys to be like, please, Mr. Joker, no. Like, no. And so you can ask the follow-up here if you'd like.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how scared should producer Daniel be about the Nuggets messing this up somehow?
Well, I think they've already kind of messed it up over the last couple years and not really letting him defend his title in full. I don't think they're going to trade Joker, but I do think that they need to tighten up. Like, I just think they need to tighten up. Arjun says, should the Bucks trade Giannis for Joker straight up? Denver would not do that. The Bucks would do that. Like, I think that right now, there are... What?
Would they Giannis for Joker straight up? The Bucks would take Joker over Giannis?
Yes, because of the contract. I do think Joker's a slightly better player at this point, and because they might have to trade Giannis
anyways.
Either way,
right.
And they don't have their own pick, so they can't tank. I think there are three players that teams would not trade straight up for Giannis. Joker, Shea, and Luka. And it's not to say, by the way, Shea and Luka are better than Giannis. I don't actually think they are necessarily. I'm just telling you, because of the age difference, and Shea obviously just won the title, all that stuff, they wouldn't trade them for Joker. Oh, Wemby as well. Thank you, Daniel. Wemby as well. That's a good one. Wemby, I didn't think about that because you couldn't trade him straight up because of the salaries. But yeah, Wemby, I don't think San Antonio would trade Wemby for Joker. I think that's an interest. I don't think they would. Maybe they would, but I don't think they would. All right, let's do Aaron Rodgers real quick before we get to the listener questions.
He's hinting at retirement again. It's that time of year. He said, I'm pretty sure that this is my last season. That's why I just did a 1-year deal. Do you believe him?
So here's the thing. I do think this is Aaron Rodgers' last year. I also do not think Aaron Rodgers is a credible narrator, and I think the media needs to stop treating him like a credible narrator, even of his own life. because within 5 minutes of him saying, I'm pretty sure this is my last season, he also said, paraphrasing, he doesn't like being in the public eye, and when he's done playing football, he won't be in the public eye anymore, and the only reason he is in the public eye is because he's playing football, which is just an uproarious comment from a guy who in the last 36 months has tried to become the full-time host of Jeopardy. When that did not work out, flirted with becoming the vice president of the United States. And one of the reasons we know about those things is because they were discussed in the documentary about Aaron Rodgers produced by Aaron Rodgers. Like, nothing screams, whoa, 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 I hate this attention, like you personally paying a camera crew to follow you around to create a movie about you. Like, so I just don't, I don't find him to be a credible narrator of his own events. And also, and I'm just going to wink at this. Do you guys remember when Aaron Rodgers was asked? Of course you do. Because he thinks this is the end-all, be-all of any issue anyone could possibly have with him, is this one comment. Because God knows he hasn't done anything else wildly aggravating. When he was asked if he had gotten the vaccine, and he said, yeah, well, he didn't say yeah, he said, I've been immunized. And then he was like, I didn't lie to you guys. I'm not saying anything. I am saying there was a very similar turn of phrase about at his introductory press conference about his wedding ring that I found interesting. That's all. I just found it interesting. And so I just don't find Aaron to be a reliable narrator of events.
You care to share?
Well, he was asked what he was wearing. And he said, it's a wedding ring. Or somebody said, is that a wedding ring? And he said, yes. I know what for everyone else that would mean. I also know that it wouldn't necessarily be a lie.
Right. It's a wedding ring. I'm not married though.
It's a wedding ring. Again, I didn't say all that. I'm just simply saying that that's all that he said. And so I find all that fascinating, but again, I'm sure Aaron hates this because he hates the attention. All right, let's do some listener questions real quick.
Mary asks, isn't there a snake watcher like for dogs and cats?
I mean, maybe, but then you have to let someone in your apartment. We didn't set this up in time.
Yeah, no, yeah. I don't think there's. Yeah, I really appreciate that, Mary. But yeah, I'm just kind of banking on the week being gone. You know, it's not going to spread. I'm going to check on them the day before. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. And also, I have homies out here if it really comes down to it.
Yeah, of course.
But and Noah asks, which Western Conference big versus guard is more likely to be the new Kobe versus Duncan for this era? Wemby versus SGA or Wemby versus Luka?
I mean, I would say Wemby versus Luka, but I'm a Luka guy. All right, let's go to John, and then we got to get out of here.
John asks, who do you see Flagg behind, or who do you see Flagg being like in the future? I feel like he gets better defensively. We got another Pippen.
Listen, Scottie Pippen's one of the greatest perimeter defenders of all time. That's, to me, too big of an ask. But he also should be a better offensive player than Pippen. So, like, who is the I don't know. I don't know what the comp. We don't need to read that last one. I don't know what the comp is for Flagg. I know that they're going to hope he can be a do-it-all point forward type. But I think people throw around the Pippen defensive comps too willy-nilly. like
think
J-Dub,
Tatum
Jalen
comp.
Williams for the Thunder, he might end up, he already has had a better offensive single playoff game than Pippen had his whole career. But Jalen Williams will never be Scottie Pippen defensively. Scottie Pippen had a multi-year stretch where he was every year either best, second, or third best perimeter defender in the league. Like, that's, to me, too big of an ask. All right, reminder to everybody, like, rate, subscribe, review, all of that. We appreciate it. Great job to Blue Duck today. Great job to Damonza. Great job to the Volume, DraftKings, and Boost Mobile. Terrible job by our future AI overlords. Talk to you guys on First Things First today and then after the 4th of July right here. See you guys later. What's right?